How's it going, everybody? So the new testing grounds launched this Thursday and they will be available for the next 2 weeks. So if you want to check out the changes for yourself, now you know until when. But what are the changes? First of all, there are no Centurion changes in this test. I'm sure many of you expected the second iteration of the character to be available for testing, and to be honest, so did I. They told us that we're going to have another round of testing for him, so it made sense to think the very next one would have the changes in them. Well, turns out we all were wrong. Stefan said during the Warriors Den that they still haven't finished some of the changes. He specifically mentioned the annoyance of light chab on repeat. I understand that Centurion is a community favourite. Ever since he was released, he had a strong fan base, so getting his rework right is probably important to Ubisoft. Well, sounds a little weird saying it like that, as if other reworks aren't important, but you get what I mean. I'm a little sad that it's such a non-issue that's holding up the whole thing. Oh well. So yeah, we have a whole list of breach changes to go through. Why breach, you ask? Well, for months on end, this community has whined about wanting a siege mode in For Honor and how cool it would be to storm a castle and all that. Then Ubisoft delivered, and to this day, the mode is actually played, unlike others. Meaning, Ubi has sunk a considerable amount of time into that mode, including the most recent maps. Both the Jormungandr season, as well as the Shanhu season, gave us one more breach map each. And at the same time, we also complained about a lot of issues that this game has. It is an asymmetrical game mode, meaning both teams have different objectives, which already makes the mode harder to balance than others. It's no longer just an issue of some map tweaks to make the two sides more balanced, it's actual game mechanics that needed changing to make the mode more competitive. So I don't think it's all that weird for them to tackle the mode. They did tease some of the changes in last year's Season 3 with Thor's hammer in the event game mode, because some of the changes were pretty similar back then. What surprised me when I checked the notes they gave us are the win rates per side. I always thought Breach favoured attackers, but apparently 58% of the time defenders were winning. Usually the overwhelming number of tickets is what I felt made it impossible to win as defenders sometimes. But yeah, we played a couple of rounds to see how it is, so let's go through the changes first of all. I will also link to the patch notes, or rather change blog posts, so you can read up on it yourself. First of all, they did mention single pick would be enabled. At the time of me writing down my notes, this has not been fixed yet, but I expect that change to come sometime during the next few days, so depending on when you watch this might no longer be an issue. I also made a whole video about single pick, so if you want to hear more about it and my arguments in favour of it, feel free to follow the pop-up link. One of the major changes you'll notice immediately is that tickets for attackers are gone in phase 1 and 2. Defenders never had any, so this means that both sides are already more equal at that point. Attackers no longer need to be careful with revives and sometimes even sit in the death screen for longer, because it was more beneficial overall to not lose a ticket and during that time let a teammate fight outnumbered. The discrepancy was addressed and now both sides only have actual in-game objectives to worry about, instead of random numbers on the UI. Well, you still have to worry about numbers, but more on that in just a bit. Phase 3 on the other hand still has tickets, and the amount of tickets is dependent on the health of the RAM. A full health RAM gives you 22 tickets, or a critical health RAM gives you 6 tickets. And from what I saw, it can be anything in between. We made it through the second gate with 11 and 13 tickets in 2 different games. So it actually scales, it's not just the 3 thresholds they list in the blog post. The other major complaint about this mode was the time it took to finish a match, and most people called for a surrender option, which I think should still be a thing they need to implement. And even if it now takes less time to get stomped, it's still a frustrating experience to have to play all 3 phases as a defender while getting absolutely curb stomped. As I said, the game is faster now. The following changes are the cause of this. The RAM received a few tweaks. First of all, the movement speed, both when boosted or just the normal speed, has been increased. It overall moves faster now. The note said slightly boosted, but you can actually really tell that it is quite a bit faster now. Same goes for the charging of the actual ramming action. Normal speed got reduced by 10 seconds down to 40 from 50. And the charged speed is down to 12 seconds from 15. Another change which I really welcome is that the ram no longer heals after breaching through the first gate. I personally always thought it really frustrating to see all my work be undone simply by finishing the first phase. Failing the first phase as an attacker right now takes some special skill, so being rewarded with additional health on the ram always seemed kinda backwards to me. But yeah, whatever damage the ram takes in phase 1 now gets carried over to phase 2. There were additional number changes to the cauldron as well as the shield banner. Both now shield or do damage for 750 health. That's a significant nerf to the shield banner, which previously shielded for 1200. Cauldron damage used to be 900. Gate health seems to not be touched, but all these changes that I just mentioned significantly speed up the pace of the game. The ram moves much faster through the map and can also crack open the gate much quicker. The cauldron doing less damage also helps the attackers, which apparently was their intention with these changes, as I mentioned at the beginning with the win rates. Same goes for the ramparts. The capture time is much quicker now. Archer points are now captured within 30 seconds, down from 40, or boosted in 15 seconds instead of previously 20 seconds. But it's really quick. And this might also be a reason why we currently only have 2 maps for the testing grounds. Only Hallowed Bastion as well as Walled City are available. Compare this to Kazan Castle, which was already a free rampart for the attackers. Now imagine it with the changed rules. What this might point to is that we will see some map changes for the others, which make reaching the first archer point for attackers a little slower. Giving the attackers too much of a head start would certainly be in their interest of getting the win rates closer to 50%, but I think that's just lazy design, especially since those win rates would be then map dependent. Well, they'll always be to a certain degree, but if it's too obvious, people will just hate fighting certain maps on certain teams. But now for a huge change, the Guardian and the buff he gives now. He now spawns 2.5 minutes after the first gate has been breached, and then 2.5 minutes after being killed. This increases the spawn rate quite a bit, and we usually had 2 fights over the Guardian each match. Now for the buff, previously the Guardian buff was just all 3 pickup buffs all at once. More damage, shield, and faster movement speed. Now the effect got expanded quite a bit. Overall, it got shifted from having power against players towards having power over objectives, especially minions. I'll list the buffs real quick. It's instant full health, 100% shield, instant revenge activation, infinite stamina for 2 minutes, then 1000% damage increase against minions, as well as 50% damage reduction against pikemen. And one more thing that wasn't listed on the website, healing effects seem to be doubled. There should be a clip somewhere in the video where I fight a Lawbringer and use my second wind and pretty much heal to full. But in regards to the buffs listed, the full health and instant revenge basically help kill all opponents quickly that might still be alive after the Guardian has been slain. The infinite stamina is an absolute dream afterwards, especially if you play a stamina hungry hero. And as a little side benefit, characters like Jormungandr are basically useless against you during that time period. Because fuck you, George. Overall, I felt the buff was stronger in the hands of the defenders, but I don't really play Breach all that much, so my perspective probably isn't the most educated here. But that sums it up, I guess. The game's pace felt much quicker with these changes. There wasn't really any downtime, and the faster respawn time of the Guardian certainly helped with that. The last phase felt exactly the same as before, throw bodies at the commander until it's dead. But phase 1 and 2 felt a little more strategic, especially since you had to react quicker to what was happening, or a rampart was lost immediately, or all of a sudden the ram advanced half the distance already. Alright, and the respawn timer, the increased time with unlocked feats is gone, so you no longer have to wait for a stupid amount of time. Well, let's end it here. Let me know what you think of the changes so far. I hope the video was helpful. Thanks for watching. Laters everybody.